Welcome to the Alariss Global Podcast. At Alariss Global, we help international tech companies build and pay their American sales teams. On this podcast, we speak with people with global careers about their journeys and insights.
I'm happy to have Daniel Cohen on the podcast. He's a general partner at Viola Ventures in Israel. You've been a venture capitalist in Israel since 2001. Tell me about some of the highlights of your career.
Yes, so I joined, as you said, the industry in 2001. It was a rough year, actually, just a month before 9/11. Started in rough times and we're in rough times again, right? Which is kind of interesting. Some of my highlights. So personally, I've been kind of going back and forth between Israel and the US, invested in about 20 companies, made about 7 exits to date. I was part of a company called Adapt TV that was sold to AOL in 2013. I was first investment company called Outbrain that went public last year. On the board of a company called Lightrix, which has been a unicorn for a few years, and many, many other great companies and not so great companies.
Great. How has Israel startup changed over the years?
It's changed dramatically, right? Because I think we were known when I started as Startup Nation, meaning Israel was really good with entrepreneurs and kind of tech solutions, but companies were always kind of small, right? So the typical Israeli story was start a company, you raise a little bit of capital, then it gets sold for 50 or 100 million to Cisco or Microsoft or any of those companies. I think that for a lot of reasons, what we saw in the past few years is the ability of Israeli companies to really scale. And suddenly we saw many, many Israeli companies that have revenues of over 100 or 200 or even more $1 million and many, many unicorns. Fun fact is that Israel had more unicorns last year than I think all Europe combined. So definitely we saw the kind of the move between the startup nation to the ability to create real businesses.
That's amazing. A lot of people would love to get an investment from you. Tell me what you look for in the companies you invest in.
So, I thought about that question because I think the typical answer from VCs is we look for great teams with big markets, but I think that's always the most boring answer as well. So I think the two things I would say is that we always look for an edge. What is that edge? What is that something that that company has that is really, really unique, that make them kind of special, or kind of what is that superpower that that startup has? It could be something unique about the founder or the founding team, or it could be really a view on the market that no one else has. And I think if I always keep to that strategy, meaning finding great teams that have something kind of a special edge on that, great things happen.
What are your favorite companies that you've invested in, and what are your favorite aspects of these companies?
Oh, wow. I love all my kids the same way. You can't choose favorite companies. To be completely honest, they're all unique and special and amazing. I will point out probably Lightrix. They're the biggest company I'm currently involved with. It's a $2 billion company. They sell at over $200 million a year. They have an app called Facetune, which is a selfie editing app. They have an app called Video Leap, which is a video editing app. And they sell to consumers all over the world, out of Israel, which I think is extremely unique and special.
That's great. You specialize in consumer internet, consumer services, and digital media. Tell me about what you think are the prospects for these industries in Israel.
So first of all, historically, Israel hasn't been that strong in those areas. Israel is much more well-known for cybersecurity and DevOps and enterprise software. So consumers not has been our strongest suit. Saying that, what has happened in the consumer world really is the ability to scale is very much correlated to the ability to do strong online marketing, and Israelis are very good at online marketing. So I think leveraging that knowledge in Israel to kind of unique upcoming brands and ideas, that's where I think we as Israelis have an edge and have the ability to create strong consumer companies.
That's great. There are 54 unicorns in Israel, and 57 Israeli companies went public in 2021. Why has Israel's tech ecosystem been able to grow so fast?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. Again, Israel has always been an entrepreneurial country. Israel, in fact, and put politics aside, has been a startup on its own. Really, I mean, it's a country that started out of nowhere 70-something years ago, and people here are very entrepreneurial. I think what has changed and what it really enabled the startup ecosystem to grow so fast is a combination of, I think, three strong factors. One is the military here, that it creates unique, unbelievable technical talent that is unmatched anywhere else in the world. And all that technical talent moves into the startup world. That's one. Two, go-to-market has shifted from field sales, where Israelis were lacking, they were far away from the market, to online sales or inside sales, and that can be scaled really well, even if you're far away from that market. And that helped Israel scale, even though they were selling into the US. And the third and last thing is that the multinationals have all been very active in Israel for years, right? When you drive here on the main roads of Tel Aviv, you see the signs of the offices of Google and Intel and Microsoft and Facebook and or Meta, I should say, all these companies. And the fact that they buy talent, buy companies, people work there, and then they leave those companies to start companies, they get that kind of global US centric experience and bring that back into the startup. That's been a major force in the growth of the Israeli startup ecosystem.
That's great. There are a lot of Israeli-founded unicorns that are based in the US rather than Israel, like Gusto and Pagaya. How do you think Israel can keep more of its tech founders?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because it used to be way more than that, right? In fact, when you look at 15 years ago, that was the only model. So every company would get funded, the CEO would move to the US. Now, it still happens, but a lot of companies are headquartered out of Israel. In fact, when you look at some of the great unicorns of last year, IronSource, Monday, Lightrix, Wix, which was, of course, went public years before that, all these companies are headquartered in Israel. So I think we're pretty good in maintaining our entrepreneurs here. Also, some of the entrepreneurs move and come back. So there's always going to be a back and forth between Israel and Silicon Valley, or Israel and New York, or Israel and the US in general. But overall, I think we're doing a pretty good job in keeping at least a majority of our founders here.
That's great. The tech industry is facing a downturn right now. What's your advice to startups as they face a challenging funding environment?
Yeah, I think there are two great, very clear things that every startup should look at. One, extend runway as much as possible. Either get to profitability or use your cash to have at least 1, 2, 3 years of runway. And if that's not possible, if you got to raise money, then either go out fundraising now, or if you can't, maybe raise a small amount to get you to that fundable stage. But really understand what is, in the current environment, your fundable stage, so you can raise money. This is just the beginning of the downturn. I think we're going to go through a little bit of rough times. And companies should be very, very focused on their overall cash situation.
How has your investing approach changed with the current downturn?
So I think, again, regarding kind of new companies that we look at, I think we're a little bit more valuation sensitive. I think we're a little bit more cautious about what we'll take to raise the next round. We're still investing, but again, being overall a little bit more careful, not at the same pace that we were investing last year, and working hard with our existing portfolio companies, according to what I said before, maintaining cash and extending runway.
What excites you about Israel's tech ecosystem?
What excites me about Israel tech ecosystem? The energy here, I think, more than anything. I think Tel Aviv is a really fantastic city because it has both the energy and kind of the vibe and the nightlife. So it's a great town to be in, and just the amount of activity here and what's happening is just amazing. The other thing about I think which excites me about Israel is that we have a little bit of everything here. So for every category that you will say, either in software or hardware or semiconductors or internet or any area you would think of, there'll be a startup in Israel. And I think that makes us very unique. Even maybe the only other place that is like that is Silicon Valley. And I think that's another area which I'm always, I love that point about the Israel ecosystem.
What are some of your favorite tech companies in Israel, whether you've invested in them or not, and why?
First of all, there are a lot. We invested in about 100 companies to date, and there are thousands of companies in Israel. Some of the companies I like and admire. I think JoyTunes is one that I really like. I think Rise Up is a company that I really like. I think Sentinel-1 on the cybersecurity is a company we missed, which I think has done a great job. And God, many, many more.
Great. What do you think needs to be done for Israel startups scene to grow more?
I think our biggest, what's holding us back, if anything, is talent, right? Immigration here is strict. It's a small country. Scalability from a talent perspective is somewhat limited, and we need to think out of the box on how we expand our teams and where do we hire outside Israel. So I think overall it's just good quality people in the U.S. Around sales and marketing, good product people in dev, and maybe in Eastern Europe and other areas, and kind of the ability to go global as Israeli companies, I think, is critical.
So it sounds like Israeli companies eventually need to open offices in other countries because it's a small country.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, we target, Israel is a small market, so 100% of the companies we work with are targeted the non-Israeli market, or a market with Israel, maybe another market. Most of them go after the U.S. market, and yes, they need to hire people in the U.S. They need to hire people, maybe development offices in Eastern Europe. So all that is critical stuff.
Great. What do you think are the prospects for the future of Israel's tech ecosystem?
I'm optimistic. I think the downturn will end. I think tech is the future of everything in the world. I think Israel has a strong part to play in that. So I'm extremely optimistic. I think no matter where the world will go, either it's Web3 or it's more in cybersecurity or anything around metaverse, I think all that we'll see innovation of those areas in Israel. And I know we will play a strong part in the global tech economy.
Has the government of Israel been helping Israel's tech ecosystem? How do you think the government can help?
Yes, the government has been very helpful through the years. They provide funding to the first VCs here 30 years ago. That was really important, starting the VC ecosystem. They've been helping tech startups in different regions and in Israel and also different areas. I think the government is important to help mostly back entrepreneurs that are not your typical kind of winners in areas that are not overhyped. So, very strong entrepreneur in cybersecurity, they don't need the government help. But if it's in different, more kind of niche vertical that VCs are not excited about, or entrepreneurs that are more from a different background, I think the government helping those and pushing them, I think that's part of supporting the expansion of our ecosystem.
Great. Is there anything you want to add?
Well, the only thing I would say is this is a bit of a rough year. Last year was I think one of the most fantastic years for tech globally and for Israel. 22 is a little bit more tough. It's going to get worse, I think, before it's going to get better, but it will get better. I've been in 2001, I've been in 2008, and I know it gets better. So if we'll all keep on being patient, I think, and looking to the future, I think great times are ahead of us.
How long do you think it'll take to get there?
To great times?
Yeah.
I know, 2 years.
Okay, sounds good. Great.
Bonnie, there's a long way to go. Believe me, you'll go through ups and downs and ups and downs. I guarantee you that.
Okay. It was great to speak with you today. Thank you so much for appearing on our podcast.
All right. Thank you. I really enjoyed it, and good luck to all of you. And thanks for having me.